What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 4 best builds in POE of Exile 2. If you are looking for any of these builds on the website, then click my link in the description or the pinned comment. Also, if you are interested in buying other PC or console games with 50 or 70% discount, then check out Instant Gaming. For example, I want to buy Elden Ring, so we just click on Add to Cart, then click Pay, then input our details and pay. After payment is complete, we will receive activation key, then copy and paste the key in, and it's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Click my link in the description and check out Instant Gaming for yourself. This setup is a fresh and powerful combination of the new Huntress Ascendancy and the Bleed Spear skills. This will revolve around fast-paced, agile combat with a focus on applying and stacking powerful bleed effects through ranged spears or the javelin attacks. You will use the spear throw or the whirling blade to apply bleeds, to then kite or reposition while the enemy takes damage over time. This playstyle will emphasize a hit-and-run tactic, exploiting movement speed, bleed stacking, and trap-style positioning for one-shotting bosses or super fast clear speed. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Huntress and our ascendancy is Amazon. Then for the first skill we have Rake with the stomping ground, deep cuts and blindside. Then second we got the Disengage with the martial tempo, Candace and ingenuity. Then next we got Blood Hunt with the bloodlust, bullseye, heavy swing, heft and close combat. Next we have Herald of Blood with brutality, precision and vitality. Then for the next one we have the Bloodhound's Mark with overpower, inspiration and the concentrated effect. Next we got Wind Dancer with the Culling Strike, blind and maim. Then next we got the Tame Beast with loyalty, minion mastery and muster. And finally we're using Explosive Spear with Overabundance, Expedite, Retreat and Primal Armament. Most of this setup is structured around spamming Rake to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this attack damage node and then keep going while taking these 3. So Primal Instinct, Eagle Eye and Disorientation. Then next we keep on going until this point and then take this bottom left side. And then keep going until we get these 2, so careful aim and blur. Then next up we keep on going until this point and then take these 3, so Crimson Assault, perfectly balanced knife and versatile arms. Then after this we go until the end and then go up top till we get this whole thing. And then when that is done, now we circle back a little and now get everything until these 2, so the Doomsayer and the Bleeding Out. And then finally from here we can pretty much go where we started from and then get all of these nodes in this top right side, and the order in which you get them doesn't really matter, so it's more of a personal preference. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they are the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply won't fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Critical Strike. This one focuses on enhancing the power and efficiency of your critical hits. You will gain significant bonuses to Critical Strike Chance and Critical Strike Multiplier, which will allow you to deal massive damage with the right setup. The node often provides an increased global Critical Strike Chance, making your hits more likely to land a critical, which is a key for scaling damage in a high-end content. Then second we want Penetrate. Whether it's elemental resistances, armor, evasion or energy shields, this gives us a massive damage boost. Penetrate is just not about damage, it's also about ensuring that your damage always lands, so this ascendancy will thrive on debuffing, piercing and breaking defenses, which makes it ideal for dealing constant high value hits in both fast-paced clearing and long boss fights. Then next we want Predatory Instincts, which is designed to enhance agility, offensive power and damage scaling. Through increased critical strike chance, attack speed and evasion, you'll gain increased critical strike chance against enemies that are on low life, which makes you highly efficient at finishing off weak enemies. And on top of this, the added attack speed will boost your offensive capability, allowing you to apply damage faster and stack debuffs like bleed or poison at an accelerated pace. And finally, we are going in for the kill. When you choose this one, it will grant you a significant boost to Critical Strike Chance and Critical Strike Multiplier when your enemies are below a certain life threshold. This means that once you've already chipped away at your targets and they are low on health, then your attacks become much more lethal, so combining these two last nodes will completely destroy any enemy that you come across. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Swift Spear with increased physical damage, adds to physical damage, more accuracy, increased attack speed and leech damage as life. Then also we got an offhand called the Coiled Buckler with increased block chance, evasion rating, max life, lightning resistance and reduced attribute requirements. Then for helmet we have the Cowled Helm with max life, accuracy rating, strength and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Shrouded Vest with evasion rating, max life and chaos resistance. Then for belt we have the Long Belt with max life, cold resistance and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Bound Braces with the add physical damage to attacks, fire, cold and lightning resistance. Then for boots we're using the Soldiering Sabatons with armor and evasion. And for bonus stats we want increased movement speed, max life, fire and cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Amethyst Ring with chaos resistance, adds physical damage to attacks, max mana and strength. While for the second one we have the Topaz Ring with the lightning resistance, max life, chaos and cold resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Jade Amulet with dexterity, spirit, then even more dexterity and fire resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more for an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. We are going to be constantly on the move, weaving through enemies with sharp, fluid motions. Every spear you will throw is not about impact, it's about the damage that follows. You don't need to stand and fight, as we can just watch them fall while we dash away. So we'll begin fights with a quick spear throw, immediately inflicting powerful bleeds that continue to drain enemies long after you've disengaged. Against tougher targets you will stack those bleeds, strafing and repositioning while they slowly tear apart. But then what about bosses? Well, they're all about timing. So keep moving, stay out of reach and just keep pressuring them as the bleed does the killing for us. Everything about this build will feed into that rhythm. Very high mobility, clean clears and a constant sense of momentum. It's not about tanking hits, it's about never being hit in the first place. So you will feel agile, tactical and lethal. And just keep spamming Rake as you see your enemies die in seconds. So this is an endgame build that utilizes the power of the attribute stacking to increase its performance. Our main goal is to stack as much strength, dexterity and intelligence as possible, to then scale it with our unique items such as the Pillar of the God and the Hand of Wisdom and the Action. One of the best things about our setup is that all it needs to function at the start is the Pillar of the Caged God, which is pretty affordable on a budget, but then later on we can scale it incredibly high with each unique item and massive power upgrades and much more. Our main playstyle will revolve around using the Tempest Flurry in the combination with the Charged Staff that can hit multiple times and create lightning shockwaves. If you want to zoom through the maps insanely fast while destroying anything and everyone that crosses your path, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the Mercenary and our ascendancy is the Gambling Legionnaire. Then for the first skill we have the Tempest Flurry with the support gems such as the Martial Tempo, Inspiration, Glacianation and the Ice Bite. Then second we get the Charged Staff with the Primal Armament, Lightning Infusion, Overcharge and the Concentrated Effect. Then next we got the Tempest Belt with the Concentrated Effect, Overabundance, Elemental Focus and the Close Combat. Next we have the Wind Dancer with the Blind, Maim and the Pin. Next up we have the Herald of the Ice with Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion, Primal Armament and the Elemental Focus. Next we got the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. And finally for the last one we are using the Glacial Cascade with no support gems. Most of the setup is structured around using the Tempest Fury and the Charged Staff to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Also, at this point I would usually show you a leveling build, but this time our particular setup is specifically meant for only endgame, because it will only start working when we get the quarterstaff called the Pillar of the Caged God. So until that point I would recommend to use my cheap gas grenade build, which link you can find in the description and on this website. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this armor and evasion node, then go like this while also grabbing the Battle Hardened and the Relentless. Then from here keep on moving while also on our way getting these two, and also the Beef. Then afterwards we go like this, and then here at the end, we wanna go up top and get this blood magic. We want to use this specific node because scaling mana and handling mana cost is expensive, while maintaining very high tankiness, so this is a great keystone to solve any potential mana problem. Then after this, we now want to circle back and this time go to the bottom and get this brute strength. And then as you can see from here, the whole path pretty much just goes in a straight line, so just follow it while also grabbing everything that you can see right here. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't need to get these two, so the lightning rod and the flash storm, if you still haven't equipped the hands of the wisdom and action. And then from here, the most important nodes and the ones we want to get is the storm and the river, as they increase our evasion rating while also letting the freeze to build up faster for more consistent explosions with the herald of the ice. And on top of this, it also makes keeping up our charge staff much easier, by giving it an extra duration when consuming a single power charge, since it counts as using an extra charge. And then finally, the last most important part is the resonance, as it is one of the core nodes of our build. It will convert the frenzy charges gained from the combat frenzy into the power charges, which will allow us to cast our insane charge staff. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to get the adaptive capability, then second get the enhanced effectiveness. Because of how many attributes we will stack, this node will grant us a massive amount of life early on. With about 500 strength, this node will result in more than 1000 extra life. Then for the third one we want to get the integrated efficiency. And then finally for the last one we get the gem studded, which is another powerful node. If we don't get this one, then our build will run out of the effective support gems. So we wanna get it to not only increase our DPS, but also to create the bigger explosions by using the Herald of the Ice. So feel free to use the exact same path as we have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next up we have our Atlas passives. So when we start we wanna first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, until we get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we want to circle back to the middle, and this time go up top, until we get to the second keystone called the Corrupted Infusion. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium, then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Pillar of the Cage God. This is relatively cheap and common item, however in the early game we wanna use the Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune to increase its flat damage output even more. On top of this, if you get lucky enough, then you can also find this quarterstaff with 3 sockets. Then for the helmet we have the 3 dragons. And after you get the Hands of the Wisdom in action, then this is the third priority that you should get, as it is mandatory to ensure that you are freezing enemies for a massive Herald of the Ice explosion. Then for the chest we have the Warrior Invictus. This is another powerful item, but this time not mandatory whatsoever, so use this one or anything similar. And for stats we wanna focus on increased evasion, more to strength, dexterity and intelligence, and more resistances like fire, cold, lightning and chaos. Then for the belt we have the double belt with increased charm charges. And for bonus stats we want max life, more to strength and chaos and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Hand of the Wisdom in action. This should be the second item that you prioritize after our weapon, as it is another core part of our build, and will enable us to stack our attributes and increase DPS by a massive amount. Then for the boots we're using the advanced hunting shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max life, more to dexterity and fire and cold resistance. Then for first and second ring we got the same one called the Prismatic Ring, with more to all elemental resistances. And for more we want adds fire or cold damage to attacks, and more strength, dexterity and intelligence. And then finally for the amulet we have Amber Amulet with strength. And for more we want more to all attributes, more to strength and intelligence. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best setup in the endgame, and if you only can afford few things, then I would recommend to prioritize the weapon, then the gloves, and finally the headpiece. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So for maps and AoV farming, we simply want to spam our Tempest Flurry while making sure to maintain the charge staff for as long as possible. However, then for single targets and boss fights, we want to start by attacking with the Tempest Flurry to generate combo stacks. So then we use our Tempest Belt and then continue attacking with the Tempest Flurry. This combo will freeze the bell and generate a power charge. So then afterwards we use our power charge by casting the charge staff. So then, once the charge staff is active, we want to continue attacking the target with the Tempest Fury and replace the Tempest Bell whenever it goes down. This setup's main playstyle is built around using the Tree Dragon Mask, which will allow our Lightning Warp to build up freeze in order to proc the cast on freeze with the Lightning Condiant, which will do massive amounts of AoV damage due to the natural shocked ground which is provided by our Lightning Warp, Eldritch Battery, and many more to increase our damage and convert all of our shields to mana. Our build will be very mana hungry, but because of our setup, we are going to be easily fixing this problem and increasing our AoV damage at the same time. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the sorceress, and our ascendancy is the Stormweaver. Then for the first skill, we have the Lightning Warp with the support gems called the Overcharge, Lightning Exposure, Glacianation, Magnified Effect, and Inspiration. Then second, we got the Archmage with the Lightning Exposure. Then next we get the Ball Lightning with the Arcane Tempo, Unleash, Scatter Shot, and Acceleration. Next we have the Lightning Condiant with the Elemental Focus, Ambush, Super Critical, and Inevitable Critical. Next up we have the Conductivity with the Heightened Curse and the Persistence. Next we get the Mana Tempest with the Murderous Intent and Premeditation. Next we got Sigil of Power with no support gems. And finally, for the last one, we are using the Cast on Freeze with the Lightning Condiant, Impetus, Energy Retention, and Shock Siphon. Most of this setup is structured around using the Lightning Warp and the Lightning Condiant to delete enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this energy shield node, and then go like this while grabbing all of these. So pure energy, rapid recharge, mana blessing, and the dampening shield. Then next we wanna go to right and get both of these, as well as getting the alternating current. Then from here we now wanna circle back a little and keep going up until this point, and then now turn to left. Then next we keep going until we get to the keystone called the Mind Over Matter, and then also get most of these nodes called the Touch Arcane, All Natural, and Desensitization. Next we wanna circle back a little to the point where we left off last time, and now again keep going until we get to the end, and now go to right. And then from here we can just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for our Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Strike twice, then second get the Constant Gale, then third now we want to get the Force of Will, and then finally for the last one we want the Scoring Winds. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start we wanna first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we circle back a little, and this time keep going up until we get to the second keystone called the Unstable Energies. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. But then on top of this we also have more passives. Which order you unlock them doesn't really matter, so again it's up to you. So this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have the Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the Pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our Expedition setup, and then finally our Breach setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Attuned Wand with the Mana Drain, and for bonus stats we want increased spell damage, max mana, more levels to lightning spells, increased mana regen, and gain mana per every kill. Also, we get an offhand called the Advanced Crystal Focus with the Energy Shield. And for more we need increased spell damage, fire and cold resistance. Then for the helmet we have the 3 dragons with the Evasion and Energy Shield. As I previously said, to achieve the highest DPS you will need this item, as his special ability is that now lightning damage from hits will contribute to the freeze, in order to proc our cast on freeze with the lightning condiant. At the start, this item of course is not required, but if you wanna deal insane amount of damage like you saw from the gameplay, then you will definitely wanna acquire it as soon as possible. Then for the chest we have the Expert's Hexer's Robe with the Energy Shield. And for more we want even more Energy Shield, Max Life, Intelligence and Fire Resistance. Then for the belt we have the Plate Belt with armor. And for more we want even more armor, Max Life, Chaos and Cold Resistance. Getting just one item with a little bit of armor will help a lot with the damage mitigation. My damage taken from physical attacks went from 0 to 10% when I just equipped a 400 armor belt, so I definitely recommend it. Then for the gloves we got the Advanced Interested Gloves with the Energy Shield. And for more we want even more Energy Shield, Max Mana, Fire and Lightning Resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feathered Sandals with the Energy Shield. And for more we got increased movement speed, max mana, intelligence, fire and lightning resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Sapphire Ring with the cold resistance. And for more we need max mana, increased cast speed, intelligence and more percentage to all elemental resistances. While then on the second one we have the Prismatic Ring with the percentage to all elemental resistances. And for more we want max mana and life, increased cast speed, intelligence and even more percentage to all elemental resistances. And then finally for the amulet we got the Everlasting Gaze. This build is built around the mana as it scales the strongest for our DPS due to the Archmage. So again, this amulet is the best in slot but not required. At the endgame you might run into a mana problem if you're low geared, but if you wanna infinitely cast the lightning without even losing mana, then this is the item for you. No matter what gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work, and I will give you 2 rotations. So first of all, for mapping and weak enemies, we want to build our Lightning Warp to build Freeze. So then we could proc our cast on Freeze with the Lightning Condiant. And therefore, our quick spammy rotation is just to use the Lightning Warp and the Ball Lightning, or perhaps the Lightning Condiant. And because of the cast on freeze buildup, we are going to be using just 1 or 2 skills, but at the same time activating even more in the background. And that is how we get so many projectiles at the same time. And then second, we get our boss rotation, which a lot of times can even do a one-shot. So this time we want to start our rotation by activating the Power Sigil, and then the Mana Tempest. And only then you want to use the Lightning Warp, and then from here again you can begin spamming with the Lightning Condiant and the Conductivity Curse. We wanted to place down our preparation skills and the Lightning Warp to have our shock ground activated, as the damage from the Lightning Condiant is very dependent on the amount of shock from our shocked ground. This setup is known as the Flicker Shock build, which generates massive amounts of frenzy charges from the combat frenzy by freezing and electrocuting enemies, which then we can even further convert to the power charges with our Resonance Keystone. Every time we have the power charges, we want to spend them on the Flicker Strike. Sometimes we can get so many rapid shots that we can get one-shotted by just how many enemies we dash through. And that is why for defense, we want to focus on building up our physical damage reduction and the shield charges, which then are further doubled by our Grim Feast buff. So if you are looking for the new top 1 monk build, then here it is. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the monk, and our ascendancy is the Invoker. Then for the first skill we have the Flicker Strike, and for support gems we want to go with the Perpetual Charge, Close Combat, Heavy Swing, Heft and the Concentrated Effect. Then second we get the Tempest Fury with the Electrocute, Rage, Martial Tempo, Inspiration and Neural Overload. Then next we got the Charge Staff with the Persistence, Conduction, Primal Armament and Raising Tempest. Next we have the Herald of the Thunder with the Cold Infusion, Glaciation and Ice Bite. Next up we have the Ghost Dance with just Fast Forward. Next we get the Grim Feast with the Clarity and Cannibalism. Next we have the Herald of the Ice with the Cold Mastery, Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion and Innervate. Next we got the Wind Dancer with the Pin on Lockdown. Then for one of the last ones we have the Tempest Belt with the Overabundance, Rage Forge and the Potential. And finally, for the last one, we're using the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. Most of this setup is structured around using the Flicker Strike to delete enemies in seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the skill speed node. Then next, let's go and take all of these three, so the flow like water, mindful awareness, and the crashing wave. Then next up we want to keep on going and take both of these whole circles, so the power within and the lust for power. Then from here let's keep going, and then next go up top here while taking all of these, so the resonance keystone while also getting the true strike for the juggler and the deadly force. And then from here we can go all the way up top, and from this point you can just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and skill gems, and then after that spend the rest of your leftover attributes into more dexterity. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Lead Me Through the Grace, as this makes you gain spirit per energy shield and evasion on your body armor. This should be one of the first gear pieces you craft or purchase, to reach enough spirit to use all of your passive skills. Then second we get and Protect Me from Harm. This one is crucial for defense, allowing you to gain additional physical damage reduction based on your evasion rating. Then third we get Sunder My Enemies, which is a huge DPS increase. It also means that you don't have to spec any penetration nodes. And then finally we have the I Am the Blizzard, which adds additional cold damage and makes it easier to freeze the enemies. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start we want to first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we circle back to middle, and this time take the left side and get all of these nodes. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives, which in order you unlock them doesn't really matter. So again, it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses. And then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup. And then finally we have our breach setup. Then moving over to the next part, which is the gear. The weapon of our choice is the Crescent Quarterstaff with a crit and weapon speed. And for bonus stats we want increased physical damage, then also adds to physical or cold damage, then even more crit like crit chance, crit damage bonus, and increased attack speed. Then for helmet we have the Expert Feather Tiara with the energy shield, and for more we want even more max energy shield, then basic increased energy shield, then max life and increased critical hit chance. Then for chest we have the Expert Fey Veyor jacket with evasion and energy shield. And for more we got chaos resistance, evasion, max and increased evasion and energy shield. Then also more to intelligence and fire and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the utility belt with 20% faster flask recovery. And for more we need max life, evasion, more to charm slots, and then lightning and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Expert Spiral Warps with the evasion and energy shield. And for more we got adds cold damage to attacks, max life, increased attack speed and fire and cold resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Threaded Shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we need increased movement speed, max life and then chaos and cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Unsent Ring with one additional skill slot. And for more we need adds lightning damage to attacks, max life, percentage to all elemental resistances, and more to lightning resistance. While then on the second one we have the Breach Ring, with max quality now is at least 50%. And for the extras we got max life, adds cold damage, percentage to all elemental resistances, and cold and fire resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Serpent's Egg with bunch of stuff, like increased rarity, more to all attributes, more chaos resistance, increased mana regen, and most importantly, gain additional charge when you gain a charge, so pretty much this will double it. This amulet is the best in slot but not required, so if you can't afford it or find it then you can just go with anything else with similar stats. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap. This is a starter setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And I will give you 2 rotations, so one for AoE and one for single targets. So our highest damage rotation for AoE mob farming and maps is to start by activating the Tempest Fury. Then next use the Charge Staff. Then afterwards one more Tempest Fury, then now use once the Flicker Strike. Then again one more Tempest Fury, and then finish it off with one more Flicker Strike. Our ailments are essential for the Flicker Strike to function, as it is our primary method to generate power charges. So that's why each time we want to use the Tempest Fury to activate it and keep on going. And then for the second rotation, this time for the bosses, we want to use once the Tempest Fury, then the Tempest Belt, then again the Tempest Fury in combination with the Charge Staff. Then next we do the same thing again, so Fury with the Charge Staff. Then use twice the Tempest Fury and then finish it off with the Tempest Belt. Overall, we want to place down our Tempest Belt as much as possible, as it gives us a massive damage bonus, especially against bosses. And then lastly, our Evasion and Energy Shield will allow us to utilize the Ghost Dance, as well as grant us with Spirit from the body armor. And then lastly, our Evasion and Energy Shield will allow us to utilize the Ghost Dance, as well as granting us with the Spirit from the body armor, to enable all of our passive skills to work properly.